A few weeks ago on the Young Turks, I addressed my former colleague, Dave Rubin. He was someone I considered a close friend for years until he completely blindsided me with his anti-progressive TYT bashing world tour following his departure from TYT Network. For years, I avoided addressing his lies on air. To be honest, we were such close friends that I thought things would somehow get better. But I made the mistake of thinking he was an honest actor and that the TYT bashing would stop. But I was wrong. I noticed that he had this habit of inviting someone on his show to say the most controversial things, and he would never challenge them. And that was an ongoing pattern. Mike Cernovich, Milo Yiannopoulos, and other questionable characters made regular appearances on his show, and Rubin just let them say whatever they wanted without any pushback. Now, to be clear, I'm not opposed to interviewing these people. Joe Rogan has all sorts of controversial people on his podcast, and I find it fascinating. The difference is that Rogan sometimes engages in the conversation and doesn't let people go unchallenged. Rubin had found a way to profit off lying about TYT in addition to providing a platform for the alt-right. So I finally had enough. He was lazy when he worked here. He's lazy now with his ridiculous show where he proves time and time again that he doesn't know anything. And why do I know he's lazy? Why did he really leave the Young Turks? Can I please finally tell the truth about why he left the Young Turks? He wanted to make a 6-figure salary to host a 30-minute-a-week show when everyone here, because we work for an independent news company, was getting paid far less while working 12-hour days. That's why Dave Rubin left the company. And now all of a sudden he's getting funded by the Koch brothers, and all of a sudden his opinions are very different. He has no political identity. He is not an honest actor. He is not an intellectual. He is a fraud. Plain and simple. It didn't take long for critics to accuse me of throwing stones, considering TYT secured some investment money last year. But the glaring difference is that no one at TYT underwent a complete 180 in their ideology after securing the funding. Investors have no editorial control. You might disagree with my views or think my presentation style is too progressive or aggressive or unsavory at times. I think those criticisms can be valid, and it's my responsibility to learn and do better when I'm wrong. But my motivation is to do the right thing and tell the truth. I know better than anyone else that sometimes I make mistakes, but I can confidently say that my political views are never influenced by a profit motive. That same cannot be said about Dave Rubin. He has partnered with Learn Liberty, which is funded by the Koch brothers, in addition to Prager University, and boom, he's suddenly a libertarian thinker. My accusations about him being lazy are evident in his lack of intellectual curiosity, which translates to a level of ignorance on a wide variety of issues. And before you keyboard warriors start furiously accusing me of ad hominem attacks, I have examples. Here's Rubin stumbling and bumbling on Joe Rogan's podcast.
The government doesn't do anything good. Right. Name one problem you could possibly have in your life, Joe Rogan, that you'd be like, get the government to solve this. Did they do the post office well? No. What do they do well?
They do the post office pretty good, actually.
But guess what? If the post office closed tomorrow, it would be all right. You'd still get mail. Amazon would pick. No, it wouldn't. Amazon would pick that up. You would have to send things
through UPS. It would cost a lot more.
It wouldn't, though. Competition would start kicking in, and between UPS and FedEx and Amazon and drones and blah 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 and DHL, they'd all start. It would probably drop prices because right now we've just got this artificial thing that sits there that then allows them to price according to that.
Wow, that was pretty incredible. Amazon isn't its own shipping company and is able to offer its quickly shipped products anywhere in the country because of a contract it has with, say it with me, the USPS, otherwise known as the Postal Service. According to Bloomberg, the USPS is charged with delivering to every home and business in America, no matter how remote. And they can only charge what Congress allows. Increases in price require approval. Since the USPS ships packages and mail at affordable prices, that actually lowers the cost of shipping for businesses like UPS and FedEx because they have to compete. Rubin made it seem as though getting rid of the post office would lower prices for its competitors. But even without Congress controlling prices, getting rid of the post office would get rid of competition. That would not lower prices, and remote parts of the country wouldn't get packages shipped to them. Anyway, it didn't take long for Rubin to contradict himself on the same podcast.
So I have 3 chickens right now. I'm going to give you a good UPS story. We ordered them. They were born in August on a Monday in Cleveland. They hatched that day. They threw them in a box with a little hole, USPS, and they showed up at my door in LA on a Tuesday. The USPS has been doing that for about 100 years.
It's the only way you can do it, by the way. You can't order chickens through any other method.
Okay, look, libertarians can make some smart, thought-provoking arguments time to time, especially when it comes to foreign policy. I feel like they deserve someone more knowledgeable than Rubin to represent them, because quite honestly, that was embarrassing. Here's another gem from Rogan's podcast.
Do you want the government to tell you how to do all these things and all the regulations that you got to have your electric thing this far from this and like all
the regulations like that for construction are important though. You do have to make sure that people don't do stupid shit.
But
make sure you don't have a power line that's near a water line. There's a lot of.
But I would put most of that on the builders though. They want to build things that are good. Now I get it.
That's not true. Listen, people
people are going to build
corners all the time. Like you have to have regulations when it comes to construction methods, or people are going to get.
They cut corners when there are regulations anyway.
They do. They would cut a lot more if there weren't regulations.
I'm not totally.
You go to third world countries and look at construction methods, they're fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
That's why schools collapse on kids in foreign countries sometimes.
Rubin purchased a newly constructed $1.5 million home a few years ago. Turns out selling your soul has its advantages. Perhaps he's not worried about his property collapsing, but the building codes that he's complaining about will prevent shoddy electrical wiring from turning that 3,000 square foot home into a pile of ash. Rubin also teamed up with the ultra-conservative Prager University and continued cashing in on spreading lies and propaganda about progressives.
Progressives used to say, I may disagree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. Not anymore. Banning speakers whose opinions you don't agree with from college campuses, that's not progressive.
Right, banning speakers isn't progressive. In fact, multiple progressives have condemned banning speakers on college campuses. The progressives here at TYT, whom he claims to dislike for being anti-free speech, have discussed this multiple times. But Rubin will never admit that because he's a one-trick pony who keeps trotting around the country with the same tired talking points.
Guys, I had conservative professors, I had liberal professors. It's okay, it's okay. Look, I'm an agnostic. I have never ever wanted to shut down a religious person from speaking.
You can't say no to Ben Shapiro. Like, you know, like you don't agree with Ben Shapiro, but you gotta let the guy gets to speak. There's no question that he gets to speak.
I don't even care about having Ann Coulter.
Yeah, I don't
Ann
really
Coulter is deeply unpopular, right? Like deeply unpopular. So let her go share her deeply unpopular ideas.
Using the reactions of college students to generalize about progressives is pathetic and also insanely dishonest. He's also dishonest about how much he values free speech.
Last September, he spoke about free speech at Harvard. And in that same month, whistleblower Chelsea Manning was removed as a visiting fellow at Harvard, precisely because of backlash from the CIA, a government agency. So this is the perfect Dave Rubin story. Free speech, college campus, government pressure to stifle free speech. It has it all, but silence from Rubin.
And that's just one example of silence from Rubin, because if he can't profit off of crying about free speech, he won't speak about it. Then there are the more ironic claims made by Rubin.
The battle of ideas has been replaced by a battle of feelings, and outrage has replaced honesty.
Kind of like your dishonest outrage about the left supposedly hindering your speech rights. Think about it. He's made a career out of being outraged over the outraged. Rubin often projects and accuses the left of doing what he does on a regular basis. For example, according to Alex Klein of the Daily Campus, Rubin declares that all decent people must fight extremes by judging people as individuals and not as groups. And then in another video, he states, it's official, leftism is a mental disorder. Political commentator David Pakman even called him out on it.
You said in an interview with Ben Shapiro that liberalism is basically a mental disorder. What did you mean by that?
I don't think I said liberalism. I might have said progressivism.
It's not surprising to me that he goes back and forth. It's not surprising to me that he lies and spreads propaganda. It's not surprising that he has completely flipped the switch on who he is as an individual and what his political beliefs are. And all I ask is, even if you disagree with me politically, that's fine. I want to have that conversation. I want to have that discussion as honest actors. But if you are someone who considers yourself libertarian, consider the fact that Dave Rubin is a public figure who represents you, and he doesn't actually genuinely believe in your ideology. And he's going around the country embarrassing you and misrepresenting you. He's getting funded to do it, which is how he was able to buy that pricey home. I think it's time that we all expect better and we demand honest actors when it comes to political discussions and political debates. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed my show, No Filter, and I actually film it every single Monday at 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. So you can check it out live on YouTube TV, just search for TYT Network's YouTube TV channel, or you can check it out in podcast form on iTunes later. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to check me out on No Filter.